All right, let's get right into it. If you follow the sport, you already know the modern football transfer window is just an absolute whirlwind of rumors, money, and, well, a whole lot of panic. But today, we're cutting straight through all that noise. In this explainer, we're breaking down three massive European transfers using a strict four-part analytical framework. We aren't just looking at who went where. We're actually decoding the why and the how behind these moves. We'll be evaluating specific player profiles, tactical fits, complex market value analyses, and finally, success predictions, all to uncover what's genuinely driving the modern game. So let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Tactical genius or financial desperation. That right there is the absolute core tension of the modern transfer market. Every single deal we analyze today vibrates with this exact energy. Are clubs making moves because they felt the perfect missing puzzle piece for their on-pitch strategy? Or are they dropping millions because the harsh financial realities of modern football have basically pushed them into a corner? More often than not, as you'll see, it's a fascinating, kind of messy collision of both worlds.
Here's our game plan for this explainer. First, the high-stakes market. Second, Rodgers, genius and desperation. Third, Somerville, tactics versus finance. Fourth, Duran, the loan strategy. And finally, number 5, the final verdict. Section 1. Rodgers to Chelsea. Genius and desperation. So let's look at the player profile. Morgan Rodgers brings a very specific conceptual identity to the pitch. He's a relentless, high-pressing forward who absolutely thrives operating in those tricky half spaces. We're talking about a player whose core attributes align perfectly with high-energy, modern attacking systems that demand immediate counterpressing. He isn't just your generic wide forward, right? His profile is built around versatility across the front line, high-level technical ability in incredibly tight spaces, and the elite physical output required to sustain aggressive pressing for a full 90 minutes. When a club targets a profile like this, they're looking for a tactical chameleon, someone who can absorb complex positional play instructions immediately and seamlessly swap roles mid-match without ever dropping intensity. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact dynamic at play with this specific move. On one hand, we have the tactical genius of integrating a player whose profile perfectly suits an immediate on-pitch need for verticality and pressing. But on the flip side, we literally cannot ignore the financial desperation dictating modern club operations. Specifically, Chelsea's well-documented dance with profit and sustainability rules, or good old PSR. Chelsea's maneuvering in the transfer market is famously driven by this urgent need to balance the books. They're utilizing long-term contracts to heavily amortize transfer fees and keep their yearly accounting costs incredibly low. This move is basically a masterclass in trying to solve a fluid footballing problem on the grass and a strict accounting problem on the spreadsheet at the exact same time. So when we weigh this tactical return on investment against financial necessity, the whole definition of a good deal changes entirely. For Chelsea, the perceived value of this transfer isn't just about what Rodgers does with the ball at his feet or his expected assist metrics. It's heavily impacted by their underlying financial realities. If a player helps balance the squad's overall wage bill because he's on a comparatively lower salary, or perfectly fits that long-term MRization strategy while simultaneously offering vital tactical utility and cup rotations, well, their market value to that specific club artificially inflates. It becomes this crazy high-wire act of financial engineering where a player's worth is just as tied to their accounting efficiency as it is to their goal contributions. Okay, so how does this actually work out in the end? For this transfer to be deemed a success, Rodgers has to seamlessly integrate tactically on the pitch, becoming a reliable asset in high-leverage matches, while simultaneously helping to relieve the club's financial desperation off the pitch by fitting neatly within their PSR compliance strategy. Only if the footballing output justifies that long-term contract amortization can they truly achieve long-term success here. It's a vital reminder of why balancing this dual reality matters so deeply when you're trying to understand the often baffling transfer strategies of major European clubs today. Section 2, Somerville to Al Hilal. Tactics versus finance. Let's rapidly break down his profile. Somerville's core identity is built on blistering pace, low center of gravity dribbling, and this unique ability to isolate defenders one-on-one to completely break down rigid defensive lines. He's an out-and-out catalyst on the pitch, an inverted winger designed to be the focal point of rapid offensive transitions. This is a profile highly sought after by top European clubs who desperately need 1v1 specialists to unlock low blocks. And honestly, this high demand makes the ultimate destination of his transfers so critically important and fascinating for our analysis today. Which brings us to the core debate. We're weighing the massive financial reality of this move against how he actually fits tactically within Al Hilal's attacking structure. Unlike the Rodgers transfer, which was a mix of a club's internal financial maneuvering and a specific tactical need, this transfer represents the overwhelming external financial pull of an entirely new, heavily backed market. Does a player of this specific, highly coveted profile move purely for the tactical project and the manager's vision, or does the sheer gravity of an unprecedented tax-free contract completely override the traditional European tactical development pathway? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer stakes we're looking at. When the financial pull is this massive, it completely disrupts traditional market value metrics. In a vacuum, you might price a player of Somerville's caliber based on underlying data, expected goals, shot-creating actions, his age curve, tactical rarity. But when a league operates with this level of sheer, state-backed financial scale, the value of a player is no longer simply about their projected on-pitch output. It's about making a global statement of intent. The market value here is fundamentally redefined by the purchasing power of the destination league, skewing traditional valuation models and forcing European clubs to compete in an entirely different financial stratosphere. So, what does success actually look like here? Well, first, Somerville has to quickly adapt to an entirely different league environment, encompassing totally different climates, travel schedules, and competitive rhythms. Second, he's got to bridge the tactical gaps between the European style he developed in and his new team's specific play style, which, let's be honest, often relies heavily on individual brilliance rather than strict positional play. And finally, he has to fulfill the immense expectations and pressure that inevitably come with carrying that massive financial package on his shoulders. We really have to objectively question if sheer financial power guarantees on-pitch synergy. The jury is always out until the boots hit the grass, but these are for sure the undeniable hurdles he has to clear. Section 3, Duran to Benfica. The loan strategy. All right, John Duran. He represents the absolute classic developing talent blueprint. He possesses incredible raw physical attributes. We're talking elite top speed, immense aerial presence, and a remarkably high technical ceiling when striking the ball. However, he currently lacks the immediate tactical maturity required for a Champions League contender. We're talking about critical nuances here, like timing his off-the-ball pressing triggers, scanning before receiving, and consistent decision-making in the final third. He is a high-value asset that desperately needs refinement. Analyzing a player who is still a project requires a completely different approach compared to a finished prime-age product. Let's move to and see how this builds out over time. A strategic loan is essentially a highly orchestrated three-phase operation. Phase 1 is the parent club actively recognizing the player's need for growth and identifying that they just cannot provide the necessary first-team minutes. Phase 2 is the development phase. And Benfica is historically one of the absolute best, most demanded environments in Europe for rapid tactical refinement and European exposure. Phase 3 is the future success, where the player returns to the parent club ready to completely dominate the starting 11 or is sold off to the highest bidder for a massive premium. The tactical fit here isn't just about winning the next domestic match, it's about a systemic, targeted education to build a player's long-term profile. Notice how market value analysis works completely differently here. We aren't looking at a straightforward purchase price versus immediate output. We're looking at the strategic increase of an asset's worth over time. The parent club is effectively outsourcing player development to a third party to organically increase market value through targeted, high-level playing time. It's a long-term investment of time and trust, rather than an immediate exchange of capital, relying on Benfica's coaching staff to iron out those flaws and inflate the player's future price tag. Ultimately, Duran's success is completely reliant on continuous development. First and foremost, if he doesn't secure consistent, meaningful minutes on the pitch, the entire loan fails instantly. He has to actively embrace the coaching, smoothing out his raw edges, and learning the complex tactical demands within Benfica's high-pressure system. If he does that, he'll return to his parent club with a completely peaked value, either ready to slot directly into a Premier League starting lineup or ready to be flipped at a massive profit. That asset appreciation is the overarching, ruthless goal of the modern European loan strategy. Section 4, the final verdict, balancing the modern market. So the crucial point is this. When we strip away the endless Twitter rumors and actually look at the underlying mechanics of specific player profiles, PSR amortization, and complex tactical fits, we are left staring at one fundamental reality of modern football. We've seen top clubs scramble to balance the books with incredibly long contracts. New leagues entirely disrupt the market with unprecedented wealth, and strategic loan systems utilized perfectly to engineer asset growth. It all leads us to one final provocative question. In today's market, does financial power always beat tactical genius? Keep that in mind the next time you see a massive record-breaking transfer across your feed. Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep analyzing the game within the game.